Hello, everybody. I'm Matt. And I'm Chris. I'm so happy to be here. Look at all the joy in my pudgy little face.
This is demeaning.
Oh, it's so slimy.
Stay out of my beard.
I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
We're the NOLAnerds here
Slimy.
to continue.
You're sensitive.
Here to
this is rugged and manly.
Oh, it is until you get to the skin. Then it's oily and gross.
Don't touch that.
Hey, focus on the issue at hand here,
You call my beard slimy.
I said your face was slimy. Your beard is luxurious.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyway, 2015 is upon us. We just finished January. Last year proved to be a very successful experiment, creating an organic and ongoing and ever-evolving top 10 list so that by the time you got to the end of the year, you could see where you started and to where you ended. Games that fell out and got replaced by newer games. You got to see, you know, as the name suggests, it organically change over the year until it's finally evolved form. Now, we didn't do a December show because we rolled it into our overall Game of the Year Awards show, which you can catch on YouTube. Skip towards the end, like way towards the end to get to the top 10 stuff for us. But to give you a brief recap, some of the games that made it: Bravely Default, Infamous Second Son, Destiny, Watch Dogs, Transistor. We had Far Cry 4, Dragon Age Inquisition, Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, hit yours up.
Shadows of Mordor.
A lot of stuff like that. But the games that took our top prizes, number 2 for me was Dragon Age Inquisition, which narrowly was beaten out by one of the greatest games that came from nowhere, the indie game Transistor. And Chris, what you got?
My game of the year was Far Cry 4.
That's right.
Pretty easily.
Yeah, it kind of swept for you. So that was it. Far Cry 4 and Transistor, officially the NOLAnerd Cast Games of the Year for 2014. Ironically, both for PS4. Technically, also for PC, but we both played them on PS4, which I guess by default makes PS4 our platform of choice for 2014.
Yep.
Yeah.
By default.
By default. All right, so 2015 has begun. January, always a slow start, not too much to talk about. So just like last year, the first couple months of this, it's really just going to be adding stuff to it. There's not going to be any shakeups because until we hit 10, nothing to cut off.
Exactly.
But I feel like this is a good time to go back into our guidelines and rules, right?
The rules.
Game has to be released in the year. So it has to be 2015. It can't be a port of something that came before it. So like last year, Rogue Legacy was one of my favorite games, but it came out in 2013. It just arrived on PS4 in 2014, thus eliminated from...
Dark Souls 2 will not be eligible for...
Right, the PS4 version of Dark Souls 2 will not be eligible. So that's round one. Also, it wouldn't be eligible because it's a remaster.
Mm-hmm.
Remasters. Some people include it, and there is a category for Best Remaster, but for our personal top 10 lists, we feel like those games should have been counted in the year they released. And unless it's like a significant thing that we've never played before, there's, in fact, one of the games I'm going to talk about is going to be the exception that proves the rule.
Okay.
I guess. But like last year, Halo Master Chief, Last of Us Remastered, stuff like that. And finally, DLC does not count as a full game unless it is a standalone DLC, such as like Blood Dragon or another one that came out this month. I've decided, split decision, if it's standalone DLC that can be bought by itself and enjoyed on its own, it should be able to count.
Good, now I have something to talk about.
Thought so. All right, so for January, I have one game to add, and Chris has one game to add. Who wants to go first?
You go first.
All right. Like I said, the exception that proves the rule, Grim Fandango Remastered. Because it's not just a remaster of something from one generation to the next. They're not just upporting a PS3 game. This is a game that was unplayable for the majority of the gaming population for over 2 decades almost. And it's a game I never had a chance to play. So for me, this is my first time experiencing it. So I think maybe that should be the rule.
Mm-hmm.
If the remaster is your first time playing the game, then it counts.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I think that works for me.
Okay. So, like Grim Fandango, I'm a huge fan of point-and-click adventure games, but I didn't really have a gaming PC growing up. I mean, when I did, the only games I really played were Command and Conquer and Blade Runner and King's Quest. So I missed all the LucasArts and Double Fine games, the Tim Schafer era of adventure games. And I grew up hearing about how great Grim Fandango is, so when I heard that they were releasing it on PS4, I got ecstatic. So my first game, even though I haven't beaten it yet, oh, we forgot that rule. We have to invest a certain amount of time to feel like we've gotten
significant.
Yeah.
Like over 15 hours.
Right. It depends on the game. If the game's short of that. But I mean, the point is, you can't just play it for an hour and then decide, this is on my list.
Yeah.
You know? It's why games first game I played this year was Wolfenstein. But unfortunately, that was a last year game. But I hadn't played it enough to include it last year. I would have, though. Yeah. I would have. So that's the first game that kind of didn't quite make the cut for our own rules. But Wolfenstein would have made the list last year if I had played it. Anyway. Grim Fandango Remastered. I'm only on year 2, so I'm halfway through the game, roughly, because the game's broken up into 4 years, apparently, is what I've been told. So I'm not using a walkthrough, and it is proven to be super obtuse and super difficult, but that was the charm of the 90s games. There was no hand-holding. And the joy you felt when you cracked the code and figure out what to do next is just delightful. Mm-hmm. So, boom. Grim Fandango Remastered. First on my list. I'm going to make a new list.
First on my list is going to be Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. I adore the Saints Row series. I think as it's gotten more ridiculous, the better the series has gotten.
Agreed.
So after the end of 4, the question was, where do the Saints go? Like where could the series possibly end up? So they went nuts and went to hell. It's not great in the way that Blood Dragon was great. It's very good. Some of the weapons, some of the 7 deadly weapons are extremely innovative. The final sequence with the devil is a ton of fun. And the endings are also a lot of fun. There's 5 separate endings to pick from.
That's good.
Unfortunately, some of the minigames are
ridiculous.
Not very good.
Yeah.
And the ones that are very good are very repetitive.
That's a shame.
Also, there's no like new music or no old music.
So, do you feel like this was kind of like just a kind of cash grab of sorts, where they're like, we kind of want to eke more out of the resources we've already invested?
I feel like it's kind of that, and kind of we need to gauge interest in Saints Row 5.
Now, here's my other question, and I guess we can pose it to both of us. First game we've added on our list. The first game we added last year was Bravely Default, and it survived the entire year. Do you see Grim Fandango for me, or Gat Out of Hell for you, surviving the cut? Because 2015 is a much, much beefier year of games than 2014 was.
I'll say yes, it makes my list, just because my lists are typically very low, so there's not
near as much competition.
No. Grim Fandango, if it is, it's going to be like a 10.
You think it's going to be at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the year of the adventure game. I predict at least one point-and-click game will make my list. We'll figure out which one. All right. That's it. I mean, there really wasn't much to talk about this month. Not much came out. February is upon us with the first wave of major games. Will games like Evolve hit our list? What about
Dying Light?
Dying Light. What about The Order 1886? Majora's Mask 3D coming out. That's another remaster that doesn't count because you never played it.
Nope.
And it's been enough removed, right?
It's been over a decade.
2 almost.
Yeah.
It's been 15 years almost.
So
anyway, so
I look forward to playing
I
it.
never really gave it a fair shake. I hated it as a kid, so I'm willing to give it a shot. Yeah. So we'll see. February's got a lot of stuff, and then it's just going to keep on rolling from there.
I agree.
Stuff like Witcher, Final Fantasy 15. We've got Batman,
Phantom
Pain. We've got Battlefield, Battlefront, Halo 5,
Rainbow Six,
Division. There's all sorts of stuff. Rise of the Tomb Raider. There's just all sorts of stuff coming up. Bloodborne.
It's a beefy year.
It's a huge year. So I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
This has been month 1 of our organic 2015 gaming list.
11 to go.
We'll see you next month.